Alrighty, great. So if you can use your video, that would be great, because I think it's really good if we can see faces. But understand completely if you don't want to do that. So, hi Jen.
You're right. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Did I just do something then?
Oh, do you want me to mute myself now?
No, it's all, I can do it, so it's fine, but you don't have to. Right. So, hello everybody, and thank you very, very much for coming this evening. I know this is a big deal for Sophie, and so I really wanted to thank you for showing up, because I really wanted Sophie to share her story with you guys and gals. So, full transparency, Sophie is one of my clients, and we've been working together for about, I don't know, maybe 6 months now.
Yeah, it must be about 6 months. Yeah.
And obviously I'm not going to reveal what we talk about, but Sophie's shared a story with me around anxiety from the beginning, and as I progressed in my business, as we've progressed into the third lockdown, I thought it'd be really good to ask Sophie to share her story. Anxiety presents itself in a number of ways, and I think that so many of us now are feeling anxious, as well as frustrated, and maybe a little bit of depression coming in, and just all sorts of emotions that we might be feeling right now that are just wearing us thin. And I think sometimes all it takes is for us just to come together and have a conversation. And I also feel that anxiety shows up in many different ways for us, and I think Sophie has a really good grasp of how it shows up for her, but really insightful things around, even when I'm talking to her and she talks to me about things, and I think, oh God, I didn't think I was anxious, but actually that's exactly what's just happened to me. So I think it's great that Sophie can give us those kind of insights on how to manage that. So I'm going to stop talking to some degree, because I'm doing the interview. And just so, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Andrea. Oh, sorry, just back out. I'm Andrea. I own a company called Generation Wellbeing. I'm a transformation life and business coach, and I specialise in positive psychology, imposter syndrome, and empowerment and confidence. So again, thank you for being here. Jen, you're in twice, I'm not sure, but never mind. So I'm going to start off. We're just going to go through a number of questions. I've had a chat with Sophie how she wants to do this. So if you have questions as we go through, or you wanted to just add something to the conversation, please feel free to do so. Don't stand on ceremony or wait till the end. It would be great if you would get involved and have a conversation with us too. And I'm sure that Sophie would appreciate that as well. Cool. Okay. So just recently, in fact, I was reading a report on coronavirus and anxiety, and it turns out that, no surprise, that in COVID, our anxiety levels have pretty much gone through the roof. But interestingly, as I was reading some stats around it, the factors most strongly associated with high anxiety during lockdown include loneliness, marital status, sex, disability, whether someone feels safe at home or not, and work being affected by coronavirus. So I would ask how many of you resonate with any of those right now. So you can raise your hand in the chat or just put your hand up. I know I am. I resonate with that right now. Yeah. And and I think that regardless of the fact that it's something that we think that we can control sometimes, I think it just gets the better of us at times, and to be able to manage it would be something that would be really, really helpful. I know for me anyway. So given that anxiety has increased so much during lockdown, so when we talked about it before, you mentioned how you felt in some ways, interestingly, that lockdown has helped you. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I suppose when coronavirus sort of first came into our lives, I suppose, was that last January, it was starting to happen. It massively kicked my anxiety off, because my anxiety is health anxiety. So the thought of getting sick from something like that absolutely petrified me. So when that was all first happening, it was, my anxiety was really, really bad. And then obviously March hit and we went into lockdown, and it actually, I think being locked at home, if you like, not being able to go anywhere or do anything, I actually felt really safe because I felt in control of the situation. So I was in control of the situation. I felt in control of my health, Olive's health, my husband's health as well, and that we were just safe. We didn't have to go anywhere, and didn't have to do anything, to have to see anybody. So I felt really protected. So it did help me in that way, and I sort of did relax into lockdown, and I kind of just embraced it. I embraced just being in lockdown and doing, obviously at that time as well, the weather was getting quite nice. We were doing loads of stuff outside, we were just walking those, and it was really lovely. And I think, that it just helped me in that way. And then I turned my focus onto Olive and just, enjoyed that time with her and just did lots of stuff. And we were in the garden probably for most of the days, every day, sort of in lockdown at the first part of it. Also that dwindled kind of near the end of it when you want to start kill each other. But it's, it did make me feel quite sort of protected to start with. Easing out of lockdown, that first ease out, that's when my anxiety started going up again, because it was like we can go out and we can do stuff, but it was that kind of, those boundaries obviously were so blurry as well, and it just weren't really too sure what we should do or if it was safe to do it. And seeing my family that I hadn't seen for months and months and months, and wanting to give them a hug but feeling really scared about giving them a hug, thinking, Christ, like what if I've got it and I give it to them, or so it was really hard. So but that initial lockdown, I felt actually I was my anxiety was probably at its lowest to start with at home.
That's interesting.
Weirdly.
That's really interesting. And so just tell us a little bit about where you think your anxiety came from, and at which point did you recognize that they were that your feelings like had a name? Like, when did you realize it was called?
It's anxiety.
Yeah.
If I think back, well, I'm still not 100% sure where it sort of came from, but I think when I look back at my childhood, even from when I was, 4, 5, whatever, I was painfully shy as well to start with, but I always sort of was worried about things. And as I got a bit older, my dad worked for London Transport, so he was a health and safety officer. So he was on and off the tubes, and he was on trains and buses and all sorts of things. So this is in the 80s. So then it was like during the sort of time of the IRA bombings and things like that. So I just was petrified of him going to work. And so I'd like leave notes on his bed, like saying, don't go to work, and all these sorts of things. I was really worried. So when I think back to those, there was obviously something there, and I don't know whether it was just that kind of just kicked it off, or whether there was something below. I'm not 100%. So that was obviously when I was a kid. And then I suppose flash forwarding to, I suppose it wasn't until when Olive was born, so it was like 2016, so a long time later, I was at a friend's little boy's or twin boy's birthday party at a soft play, when we used to be allowed to go to them, and it was I think Olive was about 6 months old, and I just felt constantly just weird, like I couldn't put my finger on it. I just felt weird constantly, and just felt either a bit dizzy, a bit sick, just a bit just like not quite with it, but I literally just couldn't put my finger. A bit short-tempered and just obviously tired with a 6-month-old. And I went to this soft play party and was chatting to 2 other friends that had kids that were very similar age to Olive, and I just mentioned it. I was like, I just don't feel quite right. And they were like, well, actually I feel the same. And we were sort of chatting, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, like you feel the same way. So I'm not mad, like I'm not ill, because in my head I was thinking, am I sick? Like, have I got something really horrible going on? And all of a sudden it was literally like a sort of a bolt of light, and it was like, this is anxiety. This is what it is, like the irrational thoughts, because that was obviously something else that was happening. the worry of like something happening to Olive, and what, God, what if something happened to me and I'm not around, and all those sorts of things. There were so many questions that sort of all of a sudden like happened when Olive was born, and also that overwhelming sort of feeling of being a parent. It was just like, shit, like I've got this little person that I've got to look after and make sure they're safe. And I think everything, it just like was like, shit, this is like so much going on. And then it was then, so it's probably it was 2016 I actually realized that's what it was. So it's a long time to sort of realize. And I think also it's probably not so much of a taboo now, I mean even less so now, but I think, you know, as the years have gone by, I think I was probably going through this stuff. I think in my 20s, to be honest, I don't remember being really anxious in my 20s, but then I think I was probably out partying a bit too much. So probably, you know, didn't have time to think about it. I think so I was just going out being a 20-year-old, you know. So I think it was later on, but so it wasn't sort of until 2016.
And was that diagnosed or by anybody, or did you feel that you needed to go and see somebody about it? Or
not at that time. I think I just kind of figured it out, was like, this is what it is. Didn't really do a great deal about it, but like kind of did stuff like I was doing a bit of exercise and all that kind of stuff, you know, those sort of things. But it probably wasn't until we actually moved house it was January 2018, and then it wasn't until then that I actually contacted the doctor, because I had a bit of a bad spell when we moved house, which I'll probably talk about a bit later, but in terms of like triggers, and like change is quite a big one. And so when we moved house, I did have a bit of a bad turn, and I think it was Nathan in the end was like, you know, you probably need to speak to somebody. So I spoke to the doctors and went through, I can't remember what the name of the group that they suggest that you go through, but I had like chats and stuff with them, and it was kind of like, you know, this is anxiety, and it's, you know, majority of it is health anxiety, but it's just generally anxiety. So yeah.
And I should mention, probably, I don't know if you can see the chat, Sophie, but Karen's put that her anxiety was also the lowest in lockdown. And it was down to control, which is what you mentioned.
It's definitely, it's definitely a big part of it, and obviously it's, you can only things that are out of your control you can't control, but you know, but when in that situation it was easily controllable, you know. And if Nathan went and did the food shop, it was like, okay, that's fine, you come back, you wash your hands, and all that kind of stuff. And actually, interestingly though, I didn't let myself get over the top with the shopping stuff, because I know of people that, and my mum is one of them, that will bring the shopping in the house and then she will wipe it all down with bleach, like she'll everything. And I didn't let myself do that from the beginning. So I thought, if I start this, I'm never going to stop, you know, as long as I wash my hands and it's fine, you know, put everything away and then wash my hands, it's fine. Which actually I think was quite a big thing for me, because I could have quite easily done that, because, you know, I've always had hand sanitizer on me pretty much. So, and obviously my hands were red raw from sort of the January anyway. I was like, I can't do this. So was really quite controlled over that as well, which was quite sort of strong of me, really, I guess, because I could have gone down that route.
And you mentioned there that you have health anxiety. So for those of us that don't know what that might be, could you explain it to us?
So for me, with health anxiety, there's that, I suppose the biggest thing for me is the word cancer. That just scares the absolute crap out of me, like it genuinely does. And the thought of like something happening to me like that, or then, you know, something happening to Olive, like if something happened to either one of us, it just, the irrational thoughts can just spiral out of control. It's like, I know, well, will she be all right if I'm not around? Will I be all right if she's not around? What would I do? You know, what would Nathan, how will Nathan be? You know, what, and you just, all these questions in your brain just goes out of control. So the health anxiety is, it's either something happening to me or something happening to Olive. And I'm really bad in situations where, like, I think in lockdown, actually, at one point she had a bit of a stomach ache, and she was really poorly with it, just for a night, like it was 24 hours, and it was like she had really horrible stomach cramps, really upset tummy. And I'm literally, obviously I'm like dealing with her and being calm on the outside to deal with it, but inside I was literally just like looking at my husband like, is she okay, like is this just a stomach bug? And it's constantly always checking that and thinking, oh, is this normal? Or like about myself, like I'm very much like I feel like I'm kind of constantly sort of like checking my body. It's like kind of like going down my body, like, is my head okay? Is this okay? Oh, that's right. Okay. And I kind of work down and sort of just overanalyze everything about health, which is just draining, really draining. And just, I wish I could I wish I could just turn off and just be like, just chill, like just get on with things. But it's just sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Karen's just also put in the chat, we're the same person. My parents are bleaching everything that comes in. Not anxiety also really her anxiety kicked in with when her daughter was born.
Yeah.
And thank you for being so honest. I have such similar irrational thoughts.
Yeah, it's so hard, like, and you get them in your head, and in my head I'm thinking, why the hell am I thinking this horrible stuff? Like, it's just horrendous. Like, who am I? Like, why am I thinking this? Is horrible. And you just want them to stop. And there are techniques that you can do to take your mind off those and move yourself, bring yourself back into the room and think about the things around you, and see things and hear things and smell things and all that kind of stuff. So that's really good, obviously, to do as well. But I might just be in the shower and something will just like pop in my head, and I'm like, literally, like, what is wrong with me? I'm just having a shower, like, stop thinking. Yeah. So it does I do my own head in, basically. It's just frustrating. And yeah,
you're definitely not alone with that. I definitely put my own head into.
Yeah.
So health anxiety is a big factor for you. And something you're really aware of. What other anxieties do you have? And I guess what triggers them?
I suppose, so I mentioned earlier change. That can be a really big one as well. So, and so I mentioned the house move. So with change, it can be something like big, like a house move. And that did trigger it off. Or also, which also is pretty big as well, it was a big step. We got a puppy back in October, a little cockapoo called Audrey. And I was really excited about it, like so excited. Like Olive was just desperate to get a dog, and it was just the most amazing thing. But that kicked off my anxiety as well. Like, it was such a big change. It was such a big change for our normal routine, of kind of like getting up and just going out and just doing this, all just the normal day-to-day stuff, like just getting in the shower. It's like, oh, is the dog going to need to go for a wee? Like, take her out again, do that, whatever, or take her for a walk. And I think also as well, just that worry of, is the dog going to hurt Olive? I mean, this was a puppy. I mean, she was like this big when we got her. She was teeny, but really sharp teeth, obviously, because she was a puppy. And even now, like, I get a bit stressed about it. I think, God, what if she jumps up and like gets hold of Olive's mouth or like ear, or all that kind of thing. It does sort of like freak me out. So changes like that can just set them off, and I can feel it. I kind of can feel it here, and I just feel it. I just get short-tempered and stressed and fuzzy-headed as well. So yeah, change is a really big one. Two, and also as well, I think I said a little bit of a chat there. This lady just said something and about menopause, but I think I notice now that when I'm due on, my irrational thoughts and my anxiety is much higher. It is much higher. Like, I know that I'm due on, because I'm like, it does step up a level. And I've got another friend of mine that says exactly the same thing, that it's around her cycle that she gets worse, and it just triggers a lot as well, which is interesting too. So and obviously changes out of my control, or like, the situations out of my control. See, COVID was huge, it was out of my control. That was really, really hard, but also I guess kind of health related. So it's kind of both sort of side of things, really.
how important is structure in your life?
Yeah, I like structure. I'm an organized person. Like, I like to know what we're doing, or like what I'm doing for the week. Like, I'll always kind of think ahead of the week and think, right, okay, so we've got this day and that day and da-da-da. And if I'm, fitting probably more so like when Olive was at school, I could kind of be a bit more structured around kind of that sort of whole day-to-day stuff. But like go for a run in the morning after I've done drop off, and then come back and do this, and then kind of crack on with looking for a new job or that kind of thing. But I do, I like to have structure. I like to know what we're doing. If I'm not too sure what's happening, it's a bit like, oh, like, are we doing that or not? Like, what's happening? So I get a bit,
So you would say that might be a coping technique in some way for you, perhaps?
To have structure. Yeah, definitely, to be organised, and plan. So, which I think helped with doing project management. So I think that kind of helped. So definitely, do like to be organised, definitely.
And if you feel happy about it, Sophie, please feel you don't need to, but talking about a single episode of anxiety, what happens to you and how do you recognize it coming on? What are the symptoms?
I think I suppose the most sort of recent one, I suppose, well, this was last January. So again, I'm sort of bringing COVID back into it, because it just seems to be like the main focus at the moment for me, I guess. But so I was still at work at that point. So this was January. Obviously, everyone was like talking a lot about it. The world was going a bit mad, because obviously they were going out panic buying, and they were buying all the loo rolls and everything. It was all a bit kind of like, oh, like, this is really mental. Like, I don't want to get involved in this at all. Like, it's just too much. And so I was at work. It's lunchtime. I thought, right, I just need to go and get some bits of food. Like, not a panic buy. I'm just going to get my normal weekly food. There's like a local Lidl near my office. And one of the girls I work with was just like, oh, like, you wouldn't do me a favor. Could you actually pick me up some loo roll? Like, she went, I'm not panic buying, but can you just pick these up for me? And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, not a problem. She said, get me like a 12 packs, like one of the big ones. Like, no worries. So kind of didn't sort of really think anything of it. Got into Lidl, and it was like, I could see it was people were a bit anxious, sort of walking around and being a bit sketchy. It just felt like. I was sort of walking around, and as I was walking around, I was thinking, like, just feeling a bit hot, a bit dizzy, a bit weird, like, don't quite feel quite right. And I've never fainted in my life ever, but it was what I was walking around, and I suddenly thought, like, shit, I'm actually going to faint. This is really weird. Like, I feel like I'm going to go. And so I was like, right, okay, just keep it together. Like, started breathing, made it to the counter, and was nearly going to say to the girl, I didn't faint, because I was about to say to the girl, look, if I faint, my husband's name is, and it's in the like in my head, I was thinking about this scenario, like, why does she needs to make sure she can ring my husband, or but actually sort of calm down. I think sort of focusing on kind of getting the shopping through and getting out was fine. And then I got into the car, and I literally just broke down and just was in floods of tears. Like, heart was racing, was like having like palpitations, and was just like, I think everything just sort of started coming out, because like the weeks of people talking about COVID, it was just like, gosh, just too much. And so I sat in the car outside Lidl for about 20 minutes. This is in my lunch hour. And then also in my head, I'm thinking, I need to get back to work as well. Rang one of my colleagues in tears, bless her. She didn't have a clue what was going on at first, because I just was in floods of tears. And she's like, can you drive? Like, can you get back to the office? It was literally just around the corner. So I made it back to the office and sat in the car park for another probably half an hour. And they sort of kept coming out and checking on me, like, are you okay? Like, do you want to come in, or do you want to go home? Do you want us to drive you home? Like, what do you want us to do? And it took a while to really kind of calm down. And I sort of went into the office, sat at my desk for a bit, and everyone was just really lovely, and just dealt with it in a really nice way, and just made me feel really relaxed. And then I went home, and I bet my work basically told me, they were like, look, just work from home for the foreseeable, just work from home. Like, you're in 3 days a week, just, I don't want you stressing out. You can do everything from home. Like, if you need to go in for a meeting, it's fine. And I was like, and that was really good. And then I got furloughed. and then made redundant. So it was like, so then it was like kind of a different path. But yeah, so that was probably quite a horrible experience, because it was like a panic attack and stuff. It was pretty scary. It's horrible. But I'm not bothered about people knowing. Like it doesn't bother me. Like I don't feel embarrassed by it. So
and I'm really glad to have that support. And just we'll go off on a slight tangent, if you allow me, is that we talked about this before. You mentioned earlier there's this whole stigma around mental health and anxiety, and saying that you are challenged by mental health, or saying that you have anxiety or you have depression, or you're stressed, and we've talked before about when you were looking for new jobs and having interviews, and just making them aware that you do have anxiety and you have to manage it, but having no qualms about telling them up front, which I think, I haven't been here for 10 years, so the workplace has changed, but I think that's really brave. I think given that there was such a stigma attached to mental health, I think it's really brave for you to sort of go forward and say, this is what, and this is how I'm going to
I do think that it probably would be slightly different if we hadn't gone through this pandemic. I think going through this pandemic and applying for jobs online and having kind of telephone calls, like telephone interviews and all that kind of thing, I think it makes it probably easier to do as well, because you're not face to face and you're either talking on the phone, or it might be a video call. I haven't had any video call interviews yet, but with lots of phone calls. And like the first one I had, I think it was a really nice company. I was speaking to the sort of recruitment lady within the company, and we had a really good chat, and we'd started sort of following each other on LinkedIn anyway, so you kind of got a little bit of a feel. Like she had a couple of kids, she was working from home, she'd just come off maternity leave, like it was all just like kind of crazy. And so we were sort of chatting, and then I ended up just sort of saying to her, like, what's your company's views on anxiety and things like that? Do they support that? Have they got, what sort of things have they got in place? And this company did have loads of really good stuff in place, which was really nice. And then she told me about her anxiety, and I was like, oh, okay, brilliant. Okay, so we had a really good chat, and we're just sort of talking about it. So yeah, I didn't get the job, but it was fun. We had a really good chat, and still like connected on LinkedIn and stuff. So yeah, I just feel the more open you're about it, it helps me, and if it helps somebody else, then brilliant. So because it's anxiety sucks, it really does. So it's if it can help others, then brilliant.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? I think that's the thing. If somebody says it out loud, then somebody else is going, like, me too, yeah, over here. It's just like, why don't we just talk about this shit more,
I know,
and normalize it, because it is normal.
It is, totally. And I think people have been feeling like this for a very long time, for years and years and years, but like it's just now that it's got a name and it's not taboo, which is great. So it does. And I think this pandemic has got a lot to answer for, because there's a lot of people that need a lot of help with it. So it's there's a lot of stuff that's got to be done following normality at some point. People need to be helped a lot.
I completely agree. So at which point then did you decide that you need to do something about it? So we all have a moment, right, where it could take 10 years to get there, but it's that moment that changes everything. So was it that point for you when you had the episode that you just talked about, or was it something where you just thought, right, I need to do something about this?
Yeah, I think that the house move, definitely, that had a really big effect on me. So I think, again, like the anxiety was there, like the irrational thoughts there. I kind of figured out that it was anxiety. The moving house thing, I think it took us like 18 months from like start to finish to get into the house. It was just a really long time. And then it was just change. And we got into the house, it's like, this is not my routine. It's like, God, I've gone from a flat where I felt really secure. You go in the main door, then you go upstairs and go into another door and then another door, and I felt really secure. When I came into a house, I was like, shit, like there's a front door, there's like the back door, it's just felt really, really vulnerable in the house. And obviously all the new noises, the radiators going, like, all those kind of stuff, like it just literally just sent me over the edge. So it was then kind of having a bit of an episode of like when we first moved into the house, and then contacted the doctors and then sort of did it. But it was more, I guess, just to kind of get the ball rolling. You know, I haven't got anything against taking medication for it at all, but I just wanted to try and go down alternative therapies. You know, I've always been into alternative therapies. You know, when I had fertility treatment for Olive, you know, I had acupuncture the whole time, and, you know, before and during and after, and all those sorts of stuff. So I was really open to kind of sort of trying something different. But I think so I do hypnotherapy now, and that didn't come until probably about a year and a half ago, actually, that it was like, actually, I need to do something more. Like, the exercise is good and all these other bits and pieces that I do are good, but I needed somebody to really kind of help me with it and guide me. And so I started seeing a guy, actually, first of all, who's absolutely brilliant. I know he'd done some really good work with some other friends of friends. He was really good. But then I was talking to another friend of mine, and she'd been seeing this lady hypnotherapist, and then I kind of switched to seeing her, and it just was a different sort of level, really. And it was quite nice just talking to another woman about it. So you know, the guy that I was seeing, he was brilliant, but I just felt a little bit more comfortable with what I was talking about, really. Yeah. So yeah.
As well as hypnotherapy, what other techniques do you use to manage your anxiety?
Exercise is huge for me. So I love running, Pilates, and walking or whatever. You know, over the years I've done sort of like marathons and triathlons and things like that. But obviously with a small child, it's sort of limited to kind of the time that I've got. But we'll always do so, especially sort of during lockdown. You know, obviously got on the Joe Wicks bandwagon and sort of started that. So for me now, you know, I have to do something every day, but that might be 15 minutes Joe Wicks in the morning, and I might do 10 minutes Pilates in the evening. Like, I'm not going out for hours and doing stuff, but that for me is a really good, it's key for me. If I don't do exercise for a few days, and it really hits home. Like, I need that time to do it. But you know, my main love is running and going out for a run and getting out into the fresh air, and, you know, just not having to think about anything, really. So so exercise is massive. Obviously hypnotherapy, meditation. I listen to an audio every night, which was courtesy of my hypnotherapist, which is brilliant, just to kind of like take away that sort of the drifting thoughts and irrational thoughts, or things that just pop into your head. Like, I have to, some nights it's easy and I just listen to it and I'm asleep within 5 minutes. Other nights I've got racing thoughts of just different stuff, and it's a bit harder. And podcasts as well, like listening to sort of really funny podcasts. That's my kind of thing at the moment. It's like, I go out and listen, you know, go out for a run and listen to a podcast. But funny ones. I listen to, like, I don't know if you've listened to it, like Shagged, Married, Annoyed with Chris Ramsey is a brilliant one. Just ridiculously stupid, lots of poo stories, and that's kind of my sense of humour. And then the other one that I listen to as well, which sounds a bit random, but hopefully people have heard of it, but My Dad Wrote a Porno is another one.
Yeah, I started listening to that when I was not.
Just brilliant. And literally, I'd have to sort of, I'd be out running and listen to it, and I'd have to stop, because if I didn't stop running, I'd probably wet myself. Like, and that for me was like just not thinking about it, just laughing. Like, I just needed to laugh. So that for me is really important as well. So I listen to those, obviously not when my daughter's around, because neither of them would be good for her to hear. And I think positivity, that sounds a bit broad, but positive social media. I don't really go on Facebook that much, because I just felt like it was just too much other crap coming through that I wasn't in control of. So Instagram is much better, because I feel that I can control a lot more what's going on with what I'm seeing. Don't listen to the news, don't have any news apps. You know, if there's something really important, Nathan will tell me, that's fine. And, you know, just being a positive person, just trying to remain a positive person as well, which I generally am, like I always have been. And just try and surround myself with as many positive people as possible, you know, or try and, influencer, but, you know, just try and be positive for other people as well. You know, really important. breathing is extra, which I'm kind of getting myself out of breath now, but yeah, breathing, just to kind of clear the irrational thoughts. But the biggest one is also talking, just just talk to people. Like if you're feeling shit, just tell them, like, because it's so easy to look at people and think, oh, they don't suffer with anxiety, look, they look really happy, they're fine, or whatever. Actually inside could be absolutely massively crumbling. And so I'm always really conscious about that. Like I think it's very easy to judge people by, a book by their cover and all that kind of stuff, but I always sort of think now that actually what's going on with that person, because they might not be acting particularly nice, but you think there's something going on. Like I don't, are they just, I don't think they're generally just a horrible person. There's something, I just kind of think there's something deeper with those sort of things. So it's just, I think it's really important to just talk to people about anything. If you're feeling rubbish, just say.
Yeah.
Because people might not just ask you, not in a bad way, but just because,
they don't think anything's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's some really great techniques there. Has anybody else got any techniques that they'd like to share, or that they do, that you guys do, that we could all learn from? Because I think you cover quite a lot there. So
yeah, it is quite a few.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello. So relate to so much, Sophie. Thank you so much, because there's so much you said that I'm like, oh my god, yeah, that's me. Even down to my mum bleaching the fruit when it's coming in from like Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. But I've recently started using like a meditation app at night, and every night when I get into bed, and that has stopped those racing. Well, not stop. Like you said,
Yeah.
I'm in the larger percentage of it not happening now than happening. Like points it, but like I'm dog tired. I don't want to put my head on the pillow, because I know that as soon as I go like that, going no, don't think that, and trying so hard against those other voices, like the anxiety voices. But I've really found it's. I'll pop the app in the chat in a minute.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
But someone recommended it actually on my Facebook group for something else. We were talking about something random and it came up. And since then, actually, I've used it every night. And I either have like the tune-in bowls, which is
nice,
really nice, or you can have guided meditation, like you were saying, really good to focus on someone else's voice.
But yeah, that's what I have to keep doing some nights, because Melanie's my hypnotherapist and she's just wonderful, and it's a guided one that she does, and so I have to so sometimes I'll be like listening to her voice, I'm like, yes, it's really nice, and I'm like, oh, but I need to do that, or like some random thought coming like that, no, stop, like get back to like listen to what she said. So some nights it's easy and I just listen to it and go to sleep, and then other nights I'm like have to really pull myself back in. I'm like, come on, concentrate, focus focus on the voice. So yeah,
really, really helps. So yeah, I'll share that in the group. But thank you, Sophie. Thank you so much.
No, it's fine, no worries. I feel like I got like really red cheeks. I'm like,
no, you look great. You look amazing.
And Eva's popped in the chat that she uses essential oil blend, which relaxes her at night and helps her keep her calm. So
nice.
Got lavender in it, by any chance? Yeah. It's really nice. It's a spray.
Nice. Oh, it's like a spray one, just like
you spray over your pillow.
Oh, cool. Yes, I have used sort of similar things in the past, and I've got a really nice, I can't remember, it's from a friend got it for me, but it's like like an oil that you can kind of put on your temples as well, and your wrists. I'm not sure what the blend is of the oils, but that's really nice as well. But yeah, I'm glad other people listen to Shag Married. That's really good as well. But it's like, I think the interesting is that for a long time I was, I got really kind of engaged with like deep and kind of thought-provoking podcasts, and I know, I love listening, and I still listen to them occasionally, but like Fern Cotton's Happy Place, and Bryony Gordon as well, all those sorts of ones, and they're absolutely brilliant. And I love to listen to them. I really, really love listening to them, because it's sort of talking to all these famous people, and you're like, bloody hell, like they've gone through some shit, and like you think, God, you poor thing, like Mel B and stuff, and all that kind of thing. You listen to it, who I wasn't a big fan of hers, and listened to that, and I was like, bloody hell, woman, like, fair play to you, like, you've gone through some crap, like. And it was just really interesting, and just different people on them, and they were really, really good, and I really enjoyed them. But then I did have, it kind of didn't stop working for me, but then I think I was like, oh, is this triggering me a bit, like, because I'm thinking about it all the time. So then that was when I switched to funny ones and then just laughed, and literally, like, some of that, like, my dad wrote a porno one. Some days I'd be driving to work as well, and thinking, God, if people are looking at me in my car thinking, what the hell is she laughing at, because it's just comical genius. It's just brilliant. So yeah, if you need a good laugh, just either one of those are just really good fun. So it's but I still have all those other, I follow those other podcasts and things as well, but yeah, the funny ones are my go-to now, definitely.
And is there anything else that didn't work? So you mentioned that, like, after a while, friends, for example.
Yeah, you know what, that's probably it, really. Like, I don't, what's it, because I think I've got quite a few things that I do, and I kind of sort of dip into them, so they don't I think there's not anything else really that I've tried and thought, like, I'm not doing that. I feel quite, I've always sort of been quite open to stuff and just giving it a go, so I've never felt anything was negative, really. I think, there's lots of lovely books out there, and I love reading. I love a book. Like, I like the feel of a really nice book. And I've bought a few books recently. I've got them to read. I'm like, I really need to read that. But I struggle. Like, my focus is quite hard sometimes. Like, and also during the day, like, I don't really get much time to do that. So whereas when I was at work before, I'd maybe like read it in my lunch break or something, but actually that's not happening now, and obviously homeschooling and things like that, so it's quite tricky. And then I get into bed and all I want to do is just go to sleep. Like, the thought of actually having a book, and I'm not very good at getting into bed and reading. So it's I think books for me, as much as I love the idea of it, like, I do struggle with that. So, like, I've got one of Fern Cotton's books out there, and I think I read probably the first chapter. I thought, like, I really need to read it, like, I really want to read it. So, and I did download Audible for a while, but I kind of got out of the habit of that as well, because I was just like, just want to listen to something funny, like, I just want to listen to podcasts. So actually that works.
Yeah.
So.
And I kind of know what you mean, because sometimes I think when you're reading, like biographies or, autobiographies, sometimes it is hard to get into them, or, directional guides like Gabrielle Bernstein and Jace Shetty and all those kind of things that you really should, and you want to read because you want to grow and learn and educate yourself. But sometimes you just want a really good fiction that you can just get lost in, and it's completely made up and make believe, and you're just getting praised. So I think
Gone Girl did that.
Mine.
Yeah, the book Gone Girl, which obviously then was later into film, that book got for me. I was like, and that was before Olive. I was pregnant with Olive when I read that, and it was like, I remember reading I was reading in bed then, because it was I had sort of time and slightly more energy, the bit in, like, the pivotal moment in the book and, like, the film where you're like, holy crap, like, shit. And I remember, like, literally I shouted out loud, and Nathan was like half asleep in bed, and he literally nearly shit himself. I was just like, what's going on? I think I got into labour or something, but I was like, no, reading Gone Girl especially. But I love that sort of book where you can completely just get lost in it.
Yeah, completely. Thank you for that. So when we were talking earlier about the fact that you're quite happy now to talk to employers about it, about your condition, if you can talk.
Yeah.
But how do you explain it to other people?
I think now, I'm just at a point in my life that I'm just sort of like just really honest about it. Like, I don't really beat around the bush with it, because actually it is what it is. And I just sort of, if they sort of say, if they ask questions, it's like, I've got health anxiety, this is what it is, this is how I feel, and this is what I'm doing to deal with it. So I'm just really honest. Like, I don't hold back. I'm not very, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, I'll tell people how I feel and stuff as well. Even when I went through fertility treatment, I know there was people at the same time me going through it, and I'd heard stories of people going through it, and they didn't even tell their employees that they were going through it. And I was like, shit, like, how did you do that? Like, it's a really big thing but you know, not everybody in the company knew, but majority of people, all the directors knew. And actually one of the directors, her twin boys at that point were 18, and they were basically from the same treatment that I was having. So she was like, you know, come in, like we'll talk about it, like, you know, if you need time off, just take it off. And you know, they were just fantastic. And I was like, gosh, like how I feel for people that aren't able to open up to that sort of thing, because it makes such a difference just opening up and just talking about it. So it's it definitely makes a huge difference just to be honest and talk about stuff, because it's amazing how brilliant people will be as well, especially now, because people will suddenly go, yeah, I feel like that too. Like, and then you've got a bit of a you know, sort of builds that relationship a bit more, doesn't it? So
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And then I guess for those of us that have people in our family, like, so some people have people in their families that are suffering from anxiety, maybe some of our kids are struggling with anxiety, maybe we work with people that are struggling with anxiety. From your point of view, how can we help to support them, or what are the things that we need to do to be able to deal with that? You know, what should we say and not say? You know, how should we
the main thing really is reassurance. Like when I'm going through like whatever it might be, and it could be something ridiculous like Olive said she had a headache or something, it might be something really simple, like really, really simple. And in my head, obviously I've catastrophized that massively, like, because that's what my brain does. And if I tell Nathan, like, so if I'd be sitting there kind of like getting all pent up and thinking like, oh, like what's going on, like I'm just about to explode, you know, if I talk to him and tell him all I want is reassurance, I just want to like just reassurance that I'm not crazy, and actually I'm, you know, it's okay, it's okay to feel like this, and actually, you know, but it's fine, like the situation's fine, it's not, you know, whatever the situation is, it's okay, you know, it's, you know, we'll deal with it if there's a problem, but at the moment it's not. Do you know what I mean? So it's just somebody just go, it's all right, and listen as well, really. And just, you know, I think, you know, don't brush it off or seem disinterested. I think that's the thing, because, you know, there's been, you know, there's probably a couple of times that I've probably, you know, worn Nathan down with the amount of like worries in one, you know, in a week or whatever, and it probably does get to the point where it's like, okay, what's now? And he, you know, doesn't mean to do it, but it's just kind of, but sometimes that can be really painful, and it can be really, that's not what I need. Like I need you just to say it's okay, like, and do that. So I think, yeah, you know, reassurance, listen, and just check in as well. Like I know it's really hard because there's we're all going through shit at the moment, you know, and even if we weren't in a pandemic, we'd still be going through some sort of shit, because that's life, isn't it? But not to sound negative, but there's always something going on and you're busy. But, you know, just check in, you know, go for a walk, somebody, go for a run, you know, grab a coffee, whatever, you know, socially distanced, obviously. But yeah, just kind of just check in as well, which is really, really important. I think we just, you know, just want to know that we're not crazy.
Yeah.
Really. So that's kind of the main things. Yeah. You just want to feel like you're not nuts, and that, you know, even though they might not understand it, they're there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my suggestions.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. Bless Carly's just put in the chat. Apologies, I need to put my boy to bed. So you're amazing. We'll catch up soon.
Yes. No, that's cool.
Yeah. And so I guess I just is there any questions that anybody wants to ask Sophie while we're here? If you wanted to drop them in the chat or just come on, feel free to. I think, you know, if we give another minute or so for any Q&A, you're very welcome. I was just thinking about some of the things that you said there, Soph, and you know, I guess I think one of the things that I do is sometimes when I'm standing in the shower, I tend to almost dream up scenarios of what hasn't happened yet. I tend to do that. I don't know if that's, you know, part of anxiety, but I generally just think ahead and think of scenarios, and generally they're the worst case scenarios.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And drama and all that kind of stuff, and then just think, why are you thinking that?
Yeah,
That makes no
not
sense.
even. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really familiar. It's yeah, it's just catastrophizing things completely, and it's like I have to like check on myself, like, my God's sake, like, why are you thinking it? Like, I'm generally like a really positive person, like all the time, really positive. Don't like negative thoughts, have positive people, things around me, and just be really positive and try to use the right, frame of mind. Don't obviously get me wrong, like I do lose my shit sometimes, but generally try and be really positive. And then I like have like stupid thoughts, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Just stop. Like, you don't need to be thinking this, it's ridiculous. But they just come in, don't they? And it's just just frustrating. So you just have to kind of bring yourself back into the room and be like, okay, I'm in the shower. Just gonna have a shower. It's just it is just trying to rein it in, isn't it? So but I always know when my anxiety's bad, the more irrational thoughts that I get in a day. If I'm having quite a good run, then my anxiety is pretty low, like my irrational thoughts are pretty low. But if my irrational thoughts are coming in, I'm like, yes, I'm not in a good place at the moment, and I'd have to probably then kind of check back and think what's going on. But obviously at the moment this could be anything, because it's like, are the schools going to go back? Is it going to be safe? Are we going to do this? There's questions and waiting for stuff at the moment, isn't there? It's just we're just in limbo constantly, so yeah, it is a weird time, and just lots of weird thoughts and stuff, really. So tough one.
Tap back into those podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think there might be another my dad wrote a porno thing. I think there's another one series coming out, so I need to check on that actually. Yeah, I'll get that one out.
Cool. So has anybody else got any questions? Jen, I can hear something that happened to someone and then start worrying about that happening to a family member, and can actually start panicking as if it's happened to them. Crazy. Thanks, Sophie. Really appreciate tonight. I got to go though. Yeah.
That's my brain does that as well, which is why it's really tricky. Like, when you hear a really like sad story about something, or somebody getting ill and something happening to them, and then you're like, shit, but then what if that happens to me? Like, and this is like one of the, because I do sort of panic about these things. I think when I think back to my childhood as well, obviously there was a thing with my dad and like IRA bombs and all that was kind of scared the crap out of me. And then it was about around the time of the Gulf War, so that was really scary too. And then also, weirdly, there was a flesh-eating bug that was going around the hospitals in the 80s. Yeah, it might have been. I can't, but it was like really, but it was huge news, and it was like really scary. And it was like, I remember them talking about that the symptoms, or not the hospitals, but it was going around the hospitals. And several times I'd convinced myself that I got it. Like, and this was a, probably 8-9-year-old. So, it's at that point thinking, oh my God, like, what if I get this? Or like, I've got it, like, oh, I've got a really upset tummy or something. And it's probably just because it was anxiety.
Yeah.
And just worry. So it just is interesting when I sort of think back to that, how it's kind of really stuck, really. And it's really similar to now. So but then it's just sort of you almost put yourself in those shoes of what if that happens to me? And I think if I think it's going to happen, it's like, I don't want to put it to the universe, like, don't stop it. Stop me. I don't want to order that, like, stop. So
Great. Well, thank you so much, because I know a lot of you do this call.
Yeah.
And Evers, but thanks, Sophie. It's great to hear it's okay not to be okay. It's so easy to decide to make you feel abnormal. Absolutely. You're great and so honest. Really great session. Oh, thanks, Seb. And thanks so much, because I understand how much it took you to do this call, and I hope that you found it as cathartic as we have. And keep doing what you're doing, because it's tough managing anxiety as well as managing everything else every day, and be able to pull yourself back in recognize what's happening, disrupt it, challenge it, and try and overcome it is a battle. And you know, so I really admire you, Sophie. You know,
Thank you.
Yeah,
let's go. I'm gonna go like kind of massive glass of wine now.
yeah.
But no,
Say, would that be one of your coping techniques? But
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
that's not.
Add wine onto the end of it. Yeah, it's but no, thank you for listening as well. And I think it's, so I had to write it all down because it's like my brain otherwise just goes all over the place. And yeah, that was quite cathartic in itself, just writing it down. So yeah, if I've helped one person, then brilliant. I think it's just got to kind of get it out there, really. So yeah, but so thank you.
Good.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And Claire, but thanks so much. Really great and so honest.
No worries. Sorry if I just ramble a bit as well, because I kind of go off and like.
No, you didn't. You were fine.
Cool.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll leave you to go and get that big glass of wine. And thank you again. And thanks everybody for coming. And please reach out if you've got any issues, or just pick up the phone and talk to Sophie.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
All right. Take care, guys. Take care.
See you later.